All right, let's dive in. Today, we're getting super practical and talking about techniques that can help put students on the path to college.
Definitely a relevant one.
We're not just theorizing here. We're diving into the nitty-gritty. Like, how does great teaching actually happen?
Yeah.
Our guide for today is Doug Lemov's Teach Like a Champion.
Oh, a classic.
It's full of practical techniques, 49 to be exact,
Yeah.
all based on real classrooms.
You know what's interesting about Lemov's work? It's made a real impact. You see it especially in those high-performing charter schools,
Oh.
like Uncommon Schools
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
and KIPP. And what's cool is how he breaks down teaching, this art of teaching, into manageable techniques.
Right, like he's making it accessible.
It's demystifying the whole process. It's
Yeah.
showing us you don't need a huge overhaul. Even little changes can make a difference.
I love that. It's like refine the craft.
Exactly.
And Lamont starts with a pretty interesting analogy. He compares great teaching to art,
Oh.
like sculpting or painting. Artists master these techniques. He says teachers need that too.
Like a sculptor carefully working on a piece of marble. Every little mood has a purpose.
Yeah.
Lemov says teaching is like that. It's not just about passion, it's about the technique shaping young minds.
So even things that seem basic, like passing out papers.
Can make or break the flow, free up time for actual learning. It changes the whole atmosphere.
Makes you think about all those little routines, the things we do without even realizing.
Absolutely.
Lamov argues that focusing on these specific techniques, these little details, can be way more effective than getting lost in all the abstract philosophies and strategies.
Yeah, he's a pragmatist. He gets to the point.
Let's get practical then. What are some of these techniques that stood out to you?
No opt-out. Now that one really resonated with me.
No opt-out. Tell me more about that one.
It's about making sure every student participates, even those who try to hide with an I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Creating that culture where everyone's engaged. But how does it work practically? Doesn't that put students on the spot?
Lemov gives a great example, a teacher asking a multiplication problem, and a student says, I don't know. But instead of moving on, the teacher asks another student, gets the right answer, and then goes back to the first student, has them repeat it.
Okay, so they're still involved.
It's about creating that safe space to practice.
Right, and not about being right or wrong. It's about engaging with the material. I feel like this could really boost motivation too.
Oh, absolutely. When students know they can't just sit back, they're more likely to try. There are actually 4 different formats of no opt-out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, each with different levels of support. But the important part, it always ends with the original student getting to the right answer. Everyone can learn.
Building that confidence. I like that.
That feeling of, I can do this.
Another one that stood out to me was right is right. Seems pretty straightforward, but Lemov takes it further.
He does. He's all about 100% accuracy.
Yeah.
No settling. He gives this example of a student defining a peninsula. They say, where the water indents into the land.
Oh, yeah.
So close, but not quite there. And it's tempting to give partial credit.
Oh, yeah.
But Lemov says that can be misleading.
Right.
The student might think they fully get it when they're missing a piece. This attention to detail, that's key for college.
Absolutely. They need that critical, precise thinking.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, does right is right apply to everything? I mean, what about subjects like creative writing,
Yeah.
where there's not always one right answer?
That's a great point. And Lemov does acknowledge that. It's not about stifling creativity. It's about having that solid foundation before you start experimenting.
That balance of precision and creativity.
Right.
These techniques are like different tools in a toolbox. You choose the right one for the job.
Absolutely. Speaking of tools, let's talk about planning.
Okay? The planning process.
Lemov has 5 techniques for that.
All right, lay them on me.
And it all starts with begin with the end.
I've heard that phrase before. What's Lemov's take?
It's all about purpose. Before you even start planning the lesson, you have to define what you want students to be able to do. That drives everything.
Like having a destination before you start the journey.
Exactly. And Lemov's big on making objectives specific, measurable, achievable, rigorous, and time-bound. Think of it like planning a trip. You need to know how long it'll take, what you need to pack, what route you're taking.
Love that analogy.
Makes it much more concrete.
So you've got your destination, your objective. What's next?
Got to figure out the best way to get there. That's where shortest path comes in.
Okay, tell me about shortest path.
Choosing the most direct, proven method to reach your goal.
So efficiency and effectiveness. I can see how tempting it would be to get caught up in the latest trends and activities.
Oh, the shiny new things.
But sometimes simpler is better.
Especially for those fundamental skills.
Right, it's about being intentional, not sacrificing effectiveness for the sake of something new.
Yeah.
What else does Lemov have for us?
Well, even with a clear objective and the shortest path, you still got to think about the logistics. That's where double plan comes in. Planning not just what you teach, but how you teach it.
Okay, how you teach it. I'm curious.
Think about the flow, pacing, keeping students engaged, the transitions, even the physical setup of the classroom. Champion teachers, they think about all of this beforehand.
Like a stage director.
Exactly. Limov even gives tips on arranging desks to maximize engagement.
Oh, wow.
Having clear lines of sight, minimizing distractions, all those little things.
Speaking of distractions, how do you keep those learners engaged?
Ah, that's where the hook comes in.
Okay, let's talk about the hook. I've heard that one thrown around.
It's all about grabbing their attention right from the start. A captivating story, a thought-provoking image, a question that sparks their curiosity.
Like setting the stage.
Yeah. Lemov gives this great example, a teacher introducing genetics with a picture of a family, everyone looking strikingly similar. Instantly makes it relatable.
I see, I see.
Another one, a physics lesson starts with a bowling ball and feathers, leading into a discussion on gravity.
Oh, that's cool. Makes it a bit more fun, right?
But Lemov's clear, the hook shouldn't replace solid teaching. It's a tool.
Right, to make it more engaging.
Finding that balance between entertainment and education.
Okay, so you've got their attention with the hook. What's next? How do you keep them engaged through the whole lesson?
Well, that's where Name the Steps comes in. And ratio.
Name the steps in ratio.
Name the Steps is about breaking down complex tasks into smaller, manageable ones.
Okay, so they're not overwhelmed.
Right. It builds confidence, too. Ratio is about shifting the cognitive work from teacher to student.
Shifting the work. What does that look like?
Instead of just giving the answers, champion teachers ask questions that make students think. They're guiding them to discover the answers themselves.
So it's active learning.
Exactly. The students are doing the thinking, the writing, the analyzing, and that's where techniques like wait time and everybody writes come into play. Wait time is about giving them that time to process before answering.
Okay.
And everybody writes makes sure all students are engaged, not just those who always raise their hands.
I love that. Turning the classroom into a mental gym.
Absolutely. But to make that happen, you need the right classroom culture. And that's what we'll dive into next time. How champion teachers create that space where learning thrives.
Yeah, wait for that. This has been so insightful already. Feeling inspired to try some of these out.
Me too. It's amazing how little tweaks can really make a big difference. And remember, we'll be back next time, diving deeper into building that vibrant classroom culture.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
Welcome back. Last time we were talking about high expectations, and that whole idea of planning with the end goal in mind. But there's another big piece we got to talk about. How do you create that classroom culture where learning can actually thrive? That's what I'm excited to dive into with Lemov's book today.
It's more than just rules, it's about creating that environment, that feeling of safety and respect where students feel empowered to really take risks. And Lemov, he actually outlines these 5 key principles for building this strong culture.
5 key principles, okay?
Control, managing those consequences, positive engagement, discipline, and influence. And they all play a role, in shaping that learning experience.
I'm really interested in that positive engagement piece. What does that actually look like in a classroom? Is it just about being nice to the students?
It goes deeper than just being nice. It's about building that genuine connection, a sense of community. So champion teachers, they make an effort to really get to know their students, as individuals, celebrate their successes, and create those opportunities for collaboration and positive interaction.
It's going beyond just the academics.
Exactly. It's that emotional support. And they even bring those moments of joy and excitement into the lesson.
Yeah, make it fun. Make it
Over.
memorable. Speaking of support, I know Lemov talks about routines and systems. Can you tell me more about that?
Oh, absolutely. Routines and systems, they're like the backbone of a well-managed classroom. They minimize distractions. They bring that predictability.
Streamline things.
Exactly. Frees up so much time and energy for learning. One technique that I thought was really interesting was entry routine.
Entry routine, okay.
It's all about having that clear, consistent procedure for how students come in, get started with their work. It sets the tone.
Right from the beginning.
That's it. Gets everyone focused right away.
Do you have any examples of those entry routines, effective ones?
Yeah, so Limov observed this teacher who had a do now activity up on the board as soon as they walked in. So it was a quick review from the previous day, to get their brains going.
Okay, kept that momentum going.
Another teacher had them line up silently outside before entering.
Oh, interesting. Just to create that sense of purpose.
It
Makes me think about how much time we actually waste, with all those transitions throughout the day.
Oh, it adds up.
And Lamov actually quantifies it.
He does. He calculated, right? If you shave off just 1 minute from 10 transitions a day, you gain an extra week of instruction over the whole year.
Wow. That's a lot of time.
It really is. Those little moments add up.
It's like that compound interest of teaching. Small changes, big impact. Are there any other techniques he suggests for managing those transitions?
Tight transitions, that's a big one.
Tight transitions, okay.
It's minimizing that downtime between activities, keeping the flow going.
Yeah,
Champion teachers, they plan for it.
gotcha.
Materials are ready, instructions are clear. They use those signals to get everyone back on track.
So it's like being a conductor, kind of. Everything's flowing seamlessly.
That's it. But what about those moments when students aren't quite following those routines or meeting expectations?
Right.
How do you handle those situations?
Yeah, how do you handle that?
Well, that's where techniques like 100% and strong voice come into play. So 100% is about expecting full compliance from every student every time.
Every student, every instruction.
It's not about being authoritarian, it's about boundaries, and accountability.
Right, setting those expectations.
But I can imagine it's a challenge, especially in a diverse classroom with all those personalities.
Yeah.
How do you get 100% without yelling or punishment?
Yeah, how do you strike that balance?
It's about being proactive, strategic. Lemov outlines these 6 levels of intervention that champion teachers use. So they range from those nonverbal cues to more direct consequences. So the key is addressing it quickly, consistently, but also in a way that maintains that positive classroom culture.
It sounds like being firm but compassionate.
Absolutely.
I'm curious about those 6 levels. Can you walk me through them?
Yeah, the first level, it's all about nonverbal cues. So the teacher might make eye contact with a student who's off task or use a hand gesture, to quiet them down.
Okay, so subtle reminders.
And if that doesn't work, then you move to level 2, which is that positive group correction.
Okay, positive group correction.
This is where you address the whole class. You acknowledge the behavior you want.
Oh, interesting.
For example, the teacher might say, "I love how quickly everyone is getting their materials out and ready to go," subtly reminding those who aren't there yet.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
And then, if that's still not working, you move to level 3, anonymous individual correction.
Okay, so it's getting a little more direct.
The teacher might say something like, "We need 3 more people with their eyes on me."
Okay, so the pressure is building, but you're not singling anyone out.
Exactly. And if you still don't have compliance, move to level 4, private individual correction. This is where you quietly address the student directly, telling them what you need.
That one-on-one.
And if that still doesn't work, you move to level 5, lightning quick public correction. You might use the student's name, give a clear directive.
Okay, so it's quick, decisive.
Right to the point. And finally, level 6.
The final level.
Consequence. This is where you follow through with your system, whatever it might be, whether it's a warning, loss of points, whatever it is.
So it's all about being clear and consistent.
Exactly. And Lemov says use these strategically.
Yeah.
You don't always have to go in order. It's about finding what works best in the moment.
Having that toolbox.
Exactly.
I know Limov also talks about strong voice as a technique for managing behavior. Tell me more about that one.
Strong voice is all about authority, commanding that attention, but without yelling or getting angry.
Right, like it's controlled.
It's about strength through composure,
Hmm.
not volume.
I can see how that would be much more effective in the long run.
Absolutely. Yelling might get you attention for a second, but it doesn't build that respect or that positive learning environment.
Right. So how do teachers develop that strong voice?
Yeah.
What are some tips?
Well, Lemov breaks it down into 5 concrete techniques. Economy of language, do not engage, square up, stand still, quiet power, and formal register.
Wow. 5 techniques. Okay, let's break those down a little bit. What's economy of language?
It's about using precise, concise language. No fluff. Think of it like a surgeon. Clean incision. Instead of saying, okay, class, I really need everyone to be quiet and listen right now, you just say, track me.
Straight to the point.
And then there's do not engage. This one might sound a little counterintuitive.
Do not engage, okay.
But it's really effective. It's about not getting pulled into those student arguments or distractions. They try to debate, you don't engage, reiterate the expectation, move on.
Interesting. So you're not giving it any power. You're staying focused.
Exactly. And that brings us to square up, stand still. This one's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I'm imagining physical presence.
You got it. Face the student, stand still, make eye contact.
It's like that scene in a Western when the sheriff walks in.
Exactly. Commanding that respect.
Okay, what are the last two?
Quiet power. Using that calm, controlled voice even when things are challenging. Strength in composure.
Like the eye of the storm?
Exactly. And formal register.
Formal register. What's that one?
Using a more formal tone of voice, and body language when you need to get serious.
It's like switching from casual Friday to your business suit.
Exactly. Elevating the situation. And all of these techniques, they work together to create that strong, consistent presence.
It's amazing how much intention goes into this.
Yeah.
Creating that positive environment. But it's not just about control and compliance, right?
Right.
There's also building character and trust.
You got it. Champion teachers, they get that academic success. It goes hand in hand with personal growth.
Yeah, like making those connections.
So they create that classroom where students feel safe to take those risks, to make mistakes.
And learn from them.
Exactly. And this reminds me of Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the techniques that really embodies that is positive framing.
Positive framing, okay.
It's about creating the world you want your students to see through your words, through your actions. Focus on solutions, not problems. Use that language that reinforces positive behavior and effort.
So instead of stop talking, it's I need everyone tracking me so we can finish this quickly and have more time for something fun.
Exactly. You're connecting that desired behavior with a benefit.
Limov gives this example, of teachers responding to students who aren't paying attention. One says, some people aren't listening, we're wasting time. The other says, I love how Sarah's tracking me. Eyes on me, pencil ready. Thank you, Sarah. I mean, what a difference.
It's all about what you choose to focus on.
What you focus on expands.
Exactly. So positive framing, it's about intentionally focusing on those behaviors you want to see more of.
I love that. Another technique Limov mentions is normalizing error. What does that mean?
It means recognizing that mistakes, they're part of learning. Champion teachers, they don't shame students for getting things wrong. They see those errors as opportunities for growth. So instead of, that's wrong, try again, it's more like, okay, let's figure out where we went off track and see if we can get back on course.
So it's that problem-solving approach.
Exactly. It's about creating that safe space to experiment.
Yeah, without that fear of failure. That's so important. Limov also talks about warm strict. How do you find that balance?
It is a delicate dance, but it's so important for creating that classroom where students feel both challenged and supported. Champion teachers, they have those high expectations, but they also show warmth. They care.
Right. So it's not about being a pushover, but not being a tyrant either.
Exactly. It's finding that sweet spot.
It's like being a coach. You're pushing them to be their best, but you're there every step of the way.
That's a great analogy. And I'm sensing a theme here. It's all about balance.
It is.
High expectations with support, structure with flexibility, rigor with joy.
And speaking of joy, Limov does emphasize the importance of that joy factor in the classroom. What does that look like?
It's recognizing that learning should be fun. Champion teachers, they bring in those moments of excitement, humor, genuine enthusiasm.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be serious all the time.
It can be playful.
Right.
And that joy can come from all sorts of places.
Yeah.
Games, celebrations, just that natural enthusiasm the teacher brings.
I love that example Limov gives of the teacher who hands out vocabulary words in sealed envelopes,
Oh, yeah.
creating that anticipation.
Just a small thing, but it adds that fun, that surprise.
It's about creating a classroom where students want to be.
Exactly. They look forward to it.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I'm already thinking about classroom management and culture differently.
Well, glad to hear that.
It's not just rules and procedures. It's creating that safe, respectful, inspiring space.
Absolutely. And speaking of inspiring, let's shift gears and talk about critical thinking.
Yes. I know this is a big one for Limov.
Oh, absolutely. A whole chapter dedicated to it. He talks about the power of asking those thought-provoking questions, discussions, debates,
Yeah, really making them think.
challenging students to analyze, evaluate, synthesize information.
And one technique that always stands out to me is wait time.
Oh, a classic. What are your thoughts on wait time?
I always love to hear what Limov has to say about it.
Well, he's a big proponent.
Yeah.
He says giving students that time to think before answering, it's crucial for deep thinking.
It's about resisting that urge to jump in, you know.
Fill the silence.
Yeah.
Give them the space to process.
I know I'm guilty of rushing sometimes, especially when we have a lot to cover.
It's easy to do.
But I can see how powerful that silence can be.
It really is. And he even gives those specific time intervals, factual recall questions about 3 seconds.
Okay.
But those higher order thinking questions, maybe 10 seconds or even more.
Wow, 10 seconds. That's a long time to wait.
It can feel a little awkward,
Yeah.
but it forces them to really think.
Yeah, it shows them that we value those thoughtful responses. We're not just looking for the quick answer.
Exactly. It shifts the whole culture. Another technique, everybody writes.
Everybody writes, okay,
This one's all about making sure everyone is engaged in that thinking process, not just the same few hands.
okay, yeah.
So everyone writes down their answer, even if you only call on a few to share.
So you're getting that participation from everyone. And it gives the teacher a chance to see where everyone's at.
Exactly. It's a great formative assessment tool. See who's on track, who needs more help.
I'm writing this one down. It's so simple, but so effective. What other techniques does he have for that critical thinking piece?
Well, one that's a little more fun is Vegas.
Vegas, okay?
Think game show elements,
Oh, I like that.
whiteboards, point systems, even theme music.
Bring in that energy.
Lumoff describes a teacher doing a multiplication showdown.
Oh, that's cool.
Another teacher used a Jeopardy-style game for vocabulary.
Fun. So you're making review fun, engaging. But is there a risk of the game becoming more important than the learning?
That's a good point. Lumoff says Vegas, it should be strategic, not a constant thing.
Right, right.
It's a tool to enhance, not replace good instruction.
Finding that balance.
Exactly. And speaking of balance, we should also talk about how champion teachers respond to student answers, right or wrong.
That's a good point. How do they handle those moments?
Well, one we've touched on is right,
Right? That pushing for accuracy.
setting that high bar. And then there's stretch it.
Stretch it.
This is about extending the learning, asking those follow-up questions.
Oh, interesting. So you're taking a right answer and making it even better.
You got it.
Mhm.
Making them think deeper, make connections. And then there's ratio again, shifting that cognitive work to the student.
Right, making them do the heavy lifting.
Exactly. Champion teachers, they're like those intellectual coaches.
Yes, they are. Another one I'm thinking of is check for understanding.
Oh, that's a crucial one.
It seems pretty straightforward, but I'm sure Limov has some insights.
He does. He says champion teachers are always checking, monitoring that comprehension, making those adjustments as needed. They don't just assume everyone's getting it.
Okay.
They're asking those targeted questions, having students summarize, maybe doing a quick assessment.
Like taking the temperature of the classroom.
That's a great way to put it, so you can intervene before it's too late. It's not about catching them out. It's about support.
This has been so much to think about. I feel like I have a whole new toolbox now.
I'm glad to hear that. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The book is full of even more advice and observations.
I'm adding it to my reading list. But before we wrap up, we have to talk about reading instruction.
Oh, absolutely. Another crucial piece. And Limov dedicates a whole chapter to it, making all teachers reading teachers.
Okay, so what's his take on reading instruction?
He says reading should be accountable, expressive, and leveraged. Accountable meaning the teacher can reliably assess whether they're actually reading, understanding.
No more faking it.
Exactly. Expressive meaning they're reading with fluency, conveying that meaning and emotion. So it's not just about the words.
Right, it's bringing the words to life.
And leveraged means reading is used as a jumping off point, for deeper learning.
Okay, so it's not just an isolated activity.
It's integrated. And to achieve this, he suggests techniques like control the game.
Control the game. Okay.
It's about structuring those activities to maximize engagement and accountability. He talks about using cold calling, those frequent checks for understanding.
Keeping everyone on their toes.
It's like you're orchestrating the whole experience.
I like that.
He also emphasizes fluency.
Okay, yeah, fluency is so important.
He argues it's essential for comprehension. you know?
Oh.
When students can read smoothly, they can focus on the meaning, not just decoding.
Right, like the difference between driving on a smooth road versus a bumpy one.
Exactly. And he gives techniques for improving that fluency, modeling expressive reading, choral reading, repeated reading,
Lots of practice.
and then, of course, vocabulary. He believes that a strong vocabulary is crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
He suggests using context clues, word webs, games, activities,
Making it fun.
and most importantly, teaching them how to use those context clues to figure out new words on their own.
Love that. Giving them those tools.
Empowering them.
Wow, we've covered so much in this episode. I'm feeling inspired.
Me too. It's incredible how much practical advice Lemov gives us. But I think the main takeaway is this. Great teaching. It's a craft. You can learn it.
You can refine it.
It's not about some innate talent. It's about those techniques, that consistent practice.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. And the more we practice, the more effective we become. But before we wrap up, there's one more thing.
Okay, what's that?
Lemov talks about going beyond techniques.
Oh, interesting. Beyond techniques.
He reminds us that these are tools, not rules.
Right.
We have to be thoughtful about how we use them.
Adapt them.
Make them our own.
It's not about just blindly following a checklist.
And that's what we'll dive into next time, how to go beyond those techniques and become truly masterful teachers.
Can't wait. This has been so enlightening. I'm feeling more confident already.
That's wonderful to hear. And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
We're all in this together.
Exactly. We'll be back next time to wrap up this deep dive and give you some final things to think about.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back. You know, after our last conversation, I'm feeling really energized about all this.
Me too.
It's amazing how these techniques, they can really change your whole perspective, create a much more positive learning environment.
It's empowering, right?
It is. But as we said, Lemov doesn't just stop at the techniques. He takes it a step further. And that's what I appreciate about this whole deep dive. We're going beyond that surface level.
Definitely. Getting into those deeper levels.
So where does he go from here? What does he say about going beyond the techniques?
He reminds us that these techniques, they're tools, not a magic formula. You know, they work best when we use them thoughtfully, not just following them blindly.
Okay, yeah. Like you have to understand the why behind the what
Yeah.
and adapt them to your own style, your own classroom.
Right. It's like learning an instrument. You can know all the notes, but it's the musician who brings the music to life.
That's a good analogy. So how do we make these techniques our own?
Reflection, experimentation. Try it out. See how it works in your classroom. Then think about what went well, what could be better. It's that continuous learning.
I like that. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget to take a step back.
Absolutely. And Lemov, he's big on making this a collaborative process.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Connect with other teachers, observe each other, share what works.
Building that community.
Exactly. Learning from each other. It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
I love that. And that's what Teach Like a Champion is all about. Helping teachers go far, reach their potential, create that transformative experience for their students.
It is.
This deep dive has been so valuable. We've learned so many strategies, but we've also talked about those bigger ideas, high expectations, building that culture, critical thinking, mastering reading,
And reflecting on our own practice. Always improving.
and ultimately believing in our students.
That's the foundation.
I'm feeling inspired and ready to get started.
That's great to hear. And remember, you're not alone in this. There's a whole community of educators out there ready to support each other.
We're all in this together. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Teach Like a Champion. We hope you've gained some valuable insights, some practical strategies.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a difference.